This is Ron from Toronto, Canada, and you're listening to Scandal Water.
Welcome to Scandal Water,
where we cover the stories that have captivated the entertainment world.
I'm Candy, a longtime educator and community theater actress.
And I'm Ashley, a writer and co-founder of a local theater group.
We're two friends who share a love of entertainment.
From true crime docuseries, to blockbuster movies, to classic TV, to Broadway shows, and everything in between.
Each week, I share a compelling story related to pop culture.
And I chime in using my trivia junkie brain.
We stick to the facts until it's time to settle into our armchairs at the end.
Then we're simply two women with a strong cup of tea and even stronger opinions.
We're Scandal Water.
And if this sounds like your cup of tea,
follow the show on your favorite podcast app or the Scandal Water Podcast YouTube channel.
Oh, it's that time of day. Tune in and hear what the ladies say. It's time to bend your ear when the silver screen appears. Stories about the stage and screen and everything in between. So come on and join the fun. The curtain opens in 3, 2, 1.
Hello, Ashley.
hello.
We are starting a new month and a new theme.
Happy April.
Happy April. Mm-hmm. Well, this is going to be an interesting episode because it's going to have a happy slant to it, but also a bit of a sad one.
Yeah.
So let me start with a quote from a 2024 Parade magazine article by Moira Rose that gives a very brief overview, hitting on a few key points about a beloved comedian and actress who recently passed away. Here's the quote. Thanks to a gift for fearless physical and improv humor, Catherine O'Hara has lit up both blockbusters, parentheses, Home Alone and its sequel, and acclaimed indie darlings, parentheses, for your consideration, Best in Show. In her 60s, she enjoyed a career renaissance playing hilariously self-absorbed matriarch Moira Rose in the breakout smash Schitt's Creek from 2015 to 20. She was nominated for 2 Emmys for the role and won in 2020, which was her second overall.
Wow.
I know. We are talking about Catherine O'Hara, of course. She passed away on January 30th. She was 71.
That was so sad. I was really affected by her death.
I don't know why I had it in my mind that we're going to have her around
I know.
for another decade at least.
But you know, I hadn't seen her recently. And when they showed photos of her recently, I thought that she looked ill.
I did. When I saw her, I thought the same thing.
Yeah.
She looked so thin. But up to that point, she was in everything. She was working so hard and she just seemed so vibrant. But I think it shocked a lot of other people as well. And the SAG-AFTRA Awards were held on March 1st of this past year. And I'd like to play the moving speech that Seth Rogen gave on behalf of Catherine O'Hara when she won the Actor Award for Outstanding Performance by a Female Actor in a Comedy Series, which in this case was for the series The Studio.
I have not seen that yet. Have you seen any of that yet?
No,
I've heard
haven't.
good things about it, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah, no, I've not seen it. But her award, by the way, was historic. It was the first time in the organization's 32-year history that a woman has received an individual posthumous award.
Really?
Yeah. So this is a little longer. It's about 2 minutes, but this is Seth Rogen with his tribute to her.
I know she would have been honored to receive this award from her fellow performers, who I know she respected so much. She was such big fans of all of yours. I obviously, have been reflecting on the time I was fortunate enough to spend with her and working with her. And something that I've just been marveling at over the last few weeks was really her ability to be generous and kind and gracious while never, ever minimizing her own talents and her own ability to contribute to the work that we were doing. She knew she could destroy, and she wanted to destroy every day on set. And I haven't said this to the other actors because I didn't want them to get ideas, but pretty much every evening before she had a shooting day on our show, she would email me and Evan an email that always was pretty similar, and it said, "Hello, I hope you'll consider the following." And then there would be a completely rewritten version of the scene she was in. And literally 100% of the time, it made not just her character better, but it made the scene better and the entire show better as a whole. And she really showed that you can be a genius and be kind, and one of those things does not have to come at the expense of the other in any way, shape, or form. So I guess I'll just leave you with this. If you have people in your lives that don't know her work, if they're kids in your lives or just people who are out of touch or stupid or something, just show them O'Hara dancing to Harry Belafonte in Beetlejuice. Show them O'Hara hurting her knee in Best in Show and doing that amazing thing where she hobbles around. And tell the people as they are laughing that that's Catherine O'Hara, and we were lucky that we got to live in a world where she so generally shared her talents with us. Thank you.
Wasn't that lovely?
That was so nice. I love the point that he made that you can be a genius and be kind.
Yes.
And she didn't diminish her own worth. She knew
Absolutely.
what she could do, but she was still kind about it.
I love that too. I actually keyed into the exact same things you were saying. She knew the work. She knew her own worth. She also valued everybody else as well. And that's, I don't know, that's just very admirable. And it made me feel good to know that this person, she seems like that kind of person. You know, when you would see her in interviews or when you would see her on TV, you would think she seems like such a likable person. I'm glad that's who she was.
Me too.
Well, to fill you guys in, Ashley and I decided our theme this month would be Oh Canada.
That's right.
We've never done this one before, and so we thought it would be fun. But of course, what better way to kick off the theme of Oh Canada than with a tribute to one of Canada's funniest and most endearing comedic actresses, Catherine O'Hara. Let's go ahead and start the way we always do. What are some of your standout memories of Catherine or her work?
Wow, I have a lot actually. Probably the first one would be Beetlejuice because I was young when I watched it. So I thought she was so funny and unhinged. I wouldn't have known that word back then.
Right.
But putting a word to it now, her character was so deliciously unhinged
Yes.
and so fun. And the last thing I actually saw with her, ironically, was Beetlejuice 2.
Oh,
So
you saw that. I didn't
did.
get a chance
Yeah,
to.
we watched, I think Brian and I watched that on Halloween. No, I am wrong. The last thing I saw her in, which is probably why I was super affected, was Home Alone. Remember, we did our episode
did.
on Home Alone, so that had been the last performance. So in my mind, she was still Kevin's mom
Yes.
when she passed away. So I was like, Kevin's mom. You know, I felt that. So she was Beetlejuice, she was Kevin's. I'm going to take all of that back. Home Alone would have been the first thing. I was 10, so I would have seen Home Alone, then Beetlejuice. Those would have been the formative performances. In my teens and 20s, it was her indie stuff, Waiting for Guffman, For Your Consideration, A Mighty Wind. I think I saw almost all of those that she was
Wow.
in. The Christopher Guest.
Okay, the mockumentaries.
The mockumentaries, anyone that she was in, because I thought she was so funny. And then when the pandemic hit, I saw Schitt's Creek, which her character in that was phenomenal.
So funny.
Phenomenal.
So funny.
Yeah, so a lot. And Nightmare Before Christmas, she was
Yes,
Sally.
absolutely. Yeah.
So she's been a big part of my life, my entertainment life.
Right. I miss some of her. I did not get to see some of her indie works, but the big name projects, yes, absolutely. And it's funny because this point came up in my research, and she said it in an interview that at some point she kind of became America's mom.
Yeah.
She became so identified with being a mother figure. When she said that, I thought, this is so true. I really find her so endearing and
Maternal.
so relatable, because I do see that mother figure in her. You know, Kevin's mom, Moira Rose. She starts out as such a terrible mother, but by
Yes.
the end, she's a very loving
The
mom.
writing in that show is outstanding. And I remember that the Eugene and Dan Levy talked about that they wrote out their characters, and Eugene would not let Dan move on until he said, you need to know exactly how this character would react in any given situation. He's like, can we just start writing the show? He's like, no, not until you know. And I think that was a huge foundation for what made their character arcs so well written. It's one of the writing on that show was some of the best I've ever seen,
Yeah.
character-wise.
Yeah. Well, that's our little introduction to Catherine. But now what we're going to do is we're going to go all the way back to the beginning, and we're going to talk about her life.
And I don't know much about her life.
Oh, okay. Well, then you're going to find this interesting too, I think, because there were some surprises for me, some big surprises. Catherine was born in Toronto in 1954 into a large Irish Catholic family. In fact, she was the sixth of 7 children, with her siblings being named Michael, Mary Margaret, Maureen, Marcus, Tom, and Patricia. Marcia. Catherine's dad, Marcus Charles O'Hara, worked for the Canadian Pacific Railway, and her mother, Margaret Ann O'Hara, was a stay-at-home mom when the kids were young, but then later in life she was a real estate agent. Catherine said it was the old show, Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In.
Yes.
Have you seen that?
Oh, yeah, I love that show.
Yep. She said that's the show that first put the idea of becoming a comedian into her head. She started impersonating people, and her dad was like her first audience, and she said he loved it. She loved making him laugh.
Yes.
And so that really fed the fire, right? Now, the other thing, I loved this. Catherine talked about her family all the time. All the time. And you would see them come to events with her. I mean, she was so close to her family, and she loved them dearly. She would speak of them often, and she complimented them so much. She would talk about her family was such a funny group of people, every one of them. She thinks that played a role in her becoming so funny. She even would joke about this a lot. She said, you had to be lively, you had to be quick-witted, because if you were sitting around that dinner table, you were not going to get into that conversation unless you fought your way in, and once you did get the floor, you better have something entertaining to say.
That's funny.
Yes. A lot of her comedic humor, a lot of her ambitions started because of her childhood, because of being part of that family. Catherine once described her father as a beautiful, shy man around other people, but said that when he came home and he was around his family, he told these great jokes from his office, but her mom was the outgoing one. As Catherine told it, Margaret Ann would always come home and imitate people that she worked with. Catherine commented she was a really good character study.
She was a good mimic.
Yeah, but this was a part I did not know. One of the greatest influences on Catherine was actually a person outside their family who ended up at that O'Hara dinner table. Do you know who I'm going to talk about?
No, who?
All right, I loved this. Here is a clip of Catherine O'Hara speaking about that in an interview she gave to Willie Geist in a Sunday sit-down a few years ago.
My brother met a girl named Gilda Radner, and they were in this theater together, and then he would bring Gilda home.
Gilda Radner was at your family dinner table.
She had my parents improvising and doing bits to playing improv games, and she let all of us see that, like regular people that could actually be in show business or have a job.
Gilda Radner.
Who knew?
I know. I was so surprised. I loved that. That was just a little flavor of this. I found out more.
Okay.
I'm going to fill you in. Okay. So first of all, Catherine spoke about Gilda many times, many different interviews, always spoke so highly of her. In fact, a few years back, Catherine told Entertainment Weekly that Gilda was, quote, like a beautiful rag doll with her long limbs and big wild hair. And then she went on to say that Gilda was more in touch with the child within than anyone Catherine had ever met before.
Wow.
Yeah. In a People magazine interview, Catherine shared that, quote, she'd come over and do bits with our family. We have some ridiculous home videos of her teaching us improv games. She was just so sweet and so much herself and unaffected by how talented she was.
Wow. I would love to see those home videos,
Wouldn't
you?
you though? Oh my goodness. So the brother, we're talking about Mark, all right? Her brother Mark. Mark and Gilda worked together at a small theater, and Gilda was the one who decided to try for a position with Second City.
Okay.
In fact, Gilda's decision to audition for a part in the cast of Second City Toronto is what inspired Catherine
To follow her?
Now, Catherine got a job there waitressing at first, and she's young at this point. I believe she's like 17, 18 years old.
Okay.
She is young. Gilda was hired to be part of that improv group. Catherine wanted to do that as well. She auditioned, and according to the Second City website, the director at that time, Joe Flaherty, actually told her, quote, keep up the day job. Keep up the waitressing.
Oh, no, Joe.
That is so not encouraging.
No. But you know what, guys? If somebody can say that to Catherine O'Hara,
Right?
maybe we all have a chance.
That's right. You keep working.
You
learn, you grow,
Yes.
right? So at some point, Catherine did become Gilda's understudy. And the website goes on to say that in 1974, although she still had no formal training, Catherine successfully replaced Gilda Radner in the cast when Gilda left for New York to be part of the National Lampoon Radio Hour, which would lead to her getting into SNL.
SNL.
Yeah. So basically what we're saying here is Catherine was about 20 years old when she stepped right into Gilda's position, which was, of course, her big break. And she was always thankful to Gilda for that.
Absolutely.
To the very end, she said in one interview, I would not have a career without her. God bless her.
Wow.
Yeah. So when SCTV started in 1976, Catherine was in the original cast.
I think I remember seeing episodes of that here and there on, when they would play reruns, but I don't remember enough about it.
So I'm the same. I can remember like little clips and seeing, I remember knowing that it was kind of similar to the way SNL worked, but
wasn't John Candy and Eugene Levy in that too?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Absolutely. I'm going to get to that in just a second. All right. But what ended up happening was Catherine stayed with SCTV most of its run.
Okay.
It ended in 1984. To go back to our point, the reason we're familiar with it a little bit is because in the early 80s, SCTV started airing, which is how Americans started to become familiar with those young comedians.
Yeah.
Also in the early 80s, specifically 1981, Catherine had the chance to be part of Saturday Night Live.
And she turned it down?
She declined to stay with SCTV.
Wow.
And it was also around this time that she did some writing for the show, and she earned an Emmy for it in 1982.
She earned
for SCTV, for the
Okay.
sketches on SCTV.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, some of Catherine's impressions on the show range from Meryl Streep to Brooke Shields to Lucille Ball. Her iconic characters that she created included Lola Heatherton and Dusty Town. Yeah, and it's so funny. I saw her on this old interview on Late Night with Johnny Carson.
Yeah.
And it was her early days, and you could tell she was nervous, and she looked so young, and Johnny was asking her about some of her impersonations, and she said, I don't know why, but I always end up doing men. That were her early ones anyway, and then she evolved. Yeah. So even while she was in the sketch comedy show, Catherine started trying to break into TV and film by doing some voiceover work and taking roles in TV specials, including a children's television sitcom called Coming Up Rosie. But of course, she really did want to get into film, and according to the SCTV website, she made her film debut in the 1980 movie Double Negative, which also starred her SCTV co-stars John Candy, Eugene Levy, and Joe Flaherty.
All your talk about a redhead has pulled our redhead in here, so Redford's here to listen about Catherine. You may hear
Up close
some
and personal.
Up close and personal, so you may hear him popping around.
He's he's exploring right now. He's having a good time. All right, here we go. So Catherine shared in numerous interviews not only how much she loved her SCTV co-stars and enjoyed working with them, but also how much she learned from them and how many doors her SCTV work opened for her. In an interview for Parade Magazine, an article that you'll find in our show notes, Catherine shared a couple of great stories. Here is a fun one that speaks to the point I was just making. Quote, I went to a film festival in Toronto one year in the 80s. So my sister and I came in the back of the theater, and Martin Scorsese was right there waiting to be introduced because he was being honored. He looks over and goes, hey, SCTV!
Aww.
Like, what? That's her thinking.
Yeah.
Then he invited us to join him, Robert De Niro, Harvey Keitel, and other people for dinner. At the dinner, he rips out a piece of his passport to give me his phone number, which I held on to forever.
Oh my gosh.
But never called because I'm shy.
Oh no!
That's how
Catherine!
Well, she says that's how I ended up in After Hours. He did end up telling me that he got into a lot of trouble for that page missing from his passport.
I bet. Man.
I know.
What a cool story.
I know. After Hours was a movie that came out in 1985, and she was in some other films in the year or two after that, one being Heartburn that starred Jack Nicholson and Meryl Streep. Yeah. But as an E! News article phrased it, it was the 1988 cult classic Beetlejuice that marked Catherine's breakout Hollywood role.
Okay, so maybe that one was first. I was confused. So 88 would be Beetlejuice and 90 would be Home Alone. All
That's right. I just figured you meant the order you saw
Possibly,
them.
very possibly.
Yeah. So just as a reminder, we've already alluded to this, but in that movie, Catherine played snooty interior designer Delia
Unhinged.
Dietz. I like your word. Yeah. Yeah.
You do not let me rip this house apart and do it in what I will. What did she say? I will go and say, and I will take you with me. He's like, okay.
But she was the wife to Charles Dietz, stepmother to Lydia Dietz, played by Winona Ryder. And of course, in the film, Delia and Charles run into trouble when they move their family into a new home that is haunted by a lovely but recently deceased couple who have hired a mischievous spirit named Beetlejuice, played by Michael Keaton, to try to run the living humans out of the house.
That is such a complex
I know, there's so
summary.
much to it.
And if you have never seen Beetlejuice, you'd be like, what in the world? But that perfectly summarizes summarizes what happens in that movie.
Thank you, because I did that one myself.
You did so good.
So the classic scene I think everybody remembers is when Catherine is hosting that dinner party
yes.
for a group of pretentious guests, and then they are suddenly compelled to lip sync the Banana Boat song by Harry Belafonte.
Yes.
I had to call it up and watch it.
It's so funny.
It is so good. She did the most amazing job portraying
being terrified.
Yes, you see her like, what is happening to me, even as she's like being sucked into doing this dance.
Yes.
It is just brilliant. Brilliant. In fact, they were all good in that scene. But Catherine shared how she landed that role in Beetlejuice. Quote, I was living in Toronto. I remember this guy named, and by the way, it's the producer, David Geffen, kept calling me about it. I don't know if he watched SCTV because that was actually a pretty amazing door opener for everybody in that cast. I got called by people like Mike Nichols for 1986's Heartburn and Martin Scorsese for 1985's After Hours because they stayed up late to watch this weird Canadian sketch show that we were on.
Yeah.
So I agreed to go meet Tim Burton, who I did not know at the time, and flew to LA and rented a car. I think he was at Warner Brothers, and it's on Warner Boulevard. I went to some other Warners in Orange County.
Oh, no.
I finally stopped at a payphone and called my agent. He said, no, you're supposed to be on Warner Boulevard. So I finally got there, and there was a note outside the door saying, I'm so sorry, I couldn't wait any longer.
Oh, no.
Tim Burton.
No. Also, was it David Geffen, the producer of Little Shop of Horrors?
Yes.
Okay.
I
David
know.
Geffen.
His name comes up. I thought the same thing. I'm like, so funny how I start to see the connections after doing this for, 250
a billion
episodes
years
or so. But anyway, to finish her quote, but I got the job. So it's a good thing I never met him or auditioned.
What? He just hired her and said, I couldn't
guess
wait.
so.
Just be in the movie. It'll be
I
fine.
know. That's amazing. So, as we've already said, Beetlejuice was huge for Catherine in more ways than one, though. Not only was it a turning point for her career, it was also during the filming of this movie that she met the man who would become her husband,
Aww.
production designer Bo Welch. She shared in an interview for People magazine that she thought Bo was very good looking, and the two of them quickly connected, talking and laughing together all the time. And Catherine said she expected him to ask her out, but time goes by and he never would. And so she finally brought it up to Tim Burton. And then here's her quote, Bo Welch keeps talking to me every day, but never asks me out. To which Tim replied, let me see what I can do.
Tim, the matchmaker.
So Tim Burton encouraged Bo to ask her out. Bo did, and the two happily dated for several years before they married in 1992. Their wedding gift from Tim Burton, wanna guess? It is the most unusual wedding gift I've ever heard in my life.
Something from the set of Beetlejuice?
No.
What?
So Catherine called this an amazing gift. He gave them a private tour at the Vatican.
What?
Where Catherine said a lovely priest or cardinal, she wasn't sure, took them everywhere, including the Pope's closet.
What?
I know.
That is wild.
Right? But on that interesting note, why don't we stop, take a break, and when we come back, we will talk a bit more about Catherine's family and, of course, a lot more about her career.
Okay. We love including listener voices in our episodes, and we're always looking for more. So tell us, where do you sip your scandal water? Do you catch up on the tea while folding your laundry, sitting at your work desk, working out at the gym? Let us know by sending in your shout out, telling us your first name, your hometown, and where you are or what you're doing when you're listening to Scandal Water. And you just might hear a voice you recognize starting one of our upcoming episodes. Email your audio clip to scandalwaterpodcast@gmail.com. The voice memo app on your phone will work just fine. Cheers!
Hey, we are back. So as we discussed in our Home Alone episode, by the way, go check that out if you want a little
really
bit
good.
more. Yeah, it was a good episode. And of course, Catherine
And
came
Macaulay's tribute to her broke my heart. It was so
Absolutely.
beautiful.
So sweet. But in that episode, we mentioned that director Chris Columbus was a huge fan of Catherine's from her SCTV days. That played a big role in her getting cast in that film. He commented that he needed somebody in that role who could kind of walk that fine line because the show had so much slapstick comedy.
Right. And she wasn't a part of that. She was the serious part.
She had to bring the heart.
Yeah.
She had to be the emotional center. And so he has commented in interviews that he was confident Catherine had the range to walk that fine line between the two and kind of bring it all together.
You know, comedians can be really good dramatic actors.
Yeah. So as a People magazine article noted, quote, her role in 1990's Home Alone cemented her status as a movie star and earned her the unofficial title of America's Mom, one that she never shed, which is what we talked about earlier. Yeah. Of course, right after that, she lost Kevin again in Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. That came out in 1992. And not long after that, she actually became a mother herself with the birth of her son, Matthew, in 1994. And then their second son, Luke, arrived in 1997. Catherine loved being a mom. Loved it. And although she did want to continue her career, she said having her children influenced the roles that she accepted. In particular, she said her role as a mother caused her to be very intentional about the job she took because she would take into strong consideration how much that job might affect her home life.
That's very sweet.
Yeah. In an interview for 519 magazine in 2019, Catherine said, quote, "I have 2 sons, and when they were babies, I thought, what's the point? What's the point of having children if I'm not going to be with them?"
Right.
So that was always a number one consideration and always will be. One of the roles Catherine did take, you've already referred to, was the 1996 Christopher Guest mockumentary Waiting for Guffman. And then she went on to appear in 3 of his other mockumentaries as well, Best in Show, which came out in 2000, A Mighty Wind, 2003, and For Your Consideration,
Okay, so then I have seen all of them.
2006.
All right, I've seen all of them. I thought there was one I hadn't, but yep, I've seen them all.
Yeah, and not being familiar with them, I did look them up on IMDb and saw that all 4 of those films are listed in IMDb as being co-written by Christopher Guest and Eugene Levy. And
I thought that
Eugene
they
had a role
improv'd
in
a
all
lot
those
of 'em.
films too. Yeah,
Yeah, he did.
yeah, and I'm sure there was a lot of improv there, but yeah. So when it's said that Eugene and Catherine had worked together many, many times across their careers, it is absolutely true. Those were 4 more.
He was
examples
definitely
of
her
that.
work husband.
Yeah. Although they would have long spells when they weren't together, you know, but friends and coworkers pretty much.
Did you know that they dated very briefly and she said it just didn't work?
I saw that, and she was glad it didn't
Yeah.
because she said she would have been sad to have lost everything that they had together as collaborators and partners and friends. Yeah. So, of course, Catherine also had roles in lots of other films and TV shows. I'm not going to list them all, but, and she did voice work as well. But here are a few. You've already mentioned this one. She was Sally in The Nightmare Before Christmas, which came out in 1993. Tina and Alien Mom in Chicken Little, 2005. Penny and Over the Hedge, 2006. The Mom in Monster House, 2006. And she was 3 of the voices in Frankenweenie.
This sounds like the years that she was parenting because she wouldn't have to be on set probably as much. So voiceover work would have maybe been what she was taking.
She stepped up a little bit more. Now, she was doing some other projects during that time, too. I just didn't take the time to name them.
Okay.
But I think you are correct that she stepped up a bit more with the voice work. Yeah. But we've already alluded to this several times. Catherine's career got a huge, unexpected boost because it had died down a little bit through those years when she was cast as Moira Rose in the TV series Schitt's Creek. Now, this I'd never put together really until I saw it in writing. Schitt's Creek became a sensation during those early stay-at-home days of the pandemic.
Right. It had actually been out for a while and it wasn't getting that much traction until it was on Netflix. And everybody was home looking for something to binge.
Everybody was at home, right? Yeah. And in 2020, Catherine O'Hara won an Emmy for Outstanding Lead Actress in a Comedy Series for that. Several sources commented that this role caused a huge resurgence of popularity for Catherine, totally revving up her career. And I'm going to play just a tiny overview from Willie Geist's interview, that Sunday sit down with Catherine, where they talk just a tiny bit about her role as Moira Rose.
We happened to play a family in which the parents lived with their adult children, holed up under one roof, all together, forced to live together. Suddenly we're in this world where millions and millions of people are living that way. And then Netflix puts it out to the world that's living that way.
Moira has become sort of an icon in her own right, going to her outfits and her wigs. And
Totally.
That accent.
Well, the accent was kind of up to me. The accents, I should say. Because when people try to imitate that character, the mistake most people make is being consistent. I was like, no, don't. And she would have to remind me. I would lose it. He'd say, what's your favorite movie? And I'd go, The Aviator.
So that spoke directly to some of the things we were saying. Yes, Netflix made all the difference for them. And I thought it was interesting to think about the fact that here it was such a parallel. Like they made this before COVID trapped everybody indoors.
And it was ending by the time it became popular because everyone, I remember when I found it, everyone was saying, oh no, we want another season. They're like, we've done it for 5 years. We're done.
We're done.
We're done. This is the end of it.
But so many people were trapped in these unusual family dynamics. And I think maybe that was. I think it was such a good point that maybe that did make it more relatable to some people. Yeah.
And her crazy character.
She was so nutty. But the summary of Schitt's Creek on IMDb reads, after being a victim of fraud, Johnny Rose and his family go from extremely wealthy to penniless overnight. The only asset left to them is a small, unsophisticated town, Schitt's Creek. They relocate there. Culture shock ensues.
Well, you know why they moved there, right? Because Johnny Rose bought that town for his son as a joke because of the name. So that was the only thing that their lawyer, whoever frauded them, did not take. So that's why they had to move to this little hotel.
There.
Yeah.
Just for fun. I know you and I have talked about this many times. There is, even if you've never seen the show, there is a scene that I guarantee you've probably heard or seen if you've ever scrolled through social media.
Yeah.
So just for fun, here's this little clip from one episode that is definitely, I would say, a viral one.
Yeah.
Next step is to fold in the cheese.
What does that mean? What does fold in the cheese mean?
You fold it in.
I understand that, but how do you fold it? Do you fold it in half like a piece of paper and drop it in the pot, or what do you do?
Dan, I cannot show you everything.
Okay, well, can you show me one thing?
Here's what you do. You just fold it in.
Okay, I don't know how to fold broken cheese like that.
I don't know how to be any clearer. You take that thing that's in your hand, and you...
If you say fold in one more time...
It says fold it in!
This is your recipe. You fold in the cheese then.
Don't you dare.
You fold it in.
David!
That is so funny.
It's so, the writing is, that's what I mean. The writing is so sharp. So sharp.
And the whole show was definitely a family affair. The actor that you heard in the clip playing Catherine O'Hara's son, that is Dan Levy, in real life, Eugene's son. Dan and Eugene are listed as the creators of the show. Eugene's daughter, Sarah, who is Dan's sister, she also played a role in the series.
She wasn't the daughter, but she was another person.
Yeah, she played a townsperson. And on a related note, Catherine revealed in an interview that both of her sons actually worked on Schitt's Creek as well.
Oh.
Yeah, in a 2024 interview, she shared that both of her sons work in the entertainment industry, in the art department, as she called it. At the time of the interview, I don't know if anything's changed since, but she said her son Matthew worked on set construction and actual construction alongside a contractor. And she commented that, quote, he's in LA and he's learning to build things that actually have to stand the test of time, which is nice. The younger son, Luke, his work was as a set dresser. And at the time of that interview, he was in Vancouver because that's where they could find a lot of work. At the time they were filming Schitt's Creek, they did both work there.
Doesn't it feel wild to you to think that she has sons old enough to be in the industry making a living? You're like, wait a minute, you were just born. You were just born and you were just babies. Time is flying.
Yeah. Well, of course, Catherine found herself in high demand as an actress when Schitt's Creek ended. She was hired for a number of projects, including the one you've already named. She was in 2024's Beetlejuice, as well as the second season of The Last of Us and The Studio, the latter two earning her Emmy nominations. We heard Seth Rogen talk about her work in The Studio at the top of the episode. But tragically, on January 30th of 2026, the Los Angeles Fire Department said they received a call at 4:48 a.m. to Catherine's address. She was suffering breathing difficulty in her home, and they rushed her to the hospital where she passed away later that morning from a pulmonary embolism. And it was only after her death that it was revealed she'd been waging a private battle with rectal cancer for something like 10 months.
Wow.
Yeah, that disease was listed as a contributing factor on her death certificate, and she had been undergoing treatment for it since March of 2025.
Which is why she was so thin.
Yeah. And I mean, and she was so strong because she had continued
Never said anything.
working and doing appearances throughout that time. Such an admirable woman. But anyway, she was 71 when she died.
That's so young.
And so many lovely tributes came out. Eugene Levy wrote, from our beginnings on the Second City stage to SCTV, to the movies we did with Chris Guest, to our 6 glorious years on Schitt's Creek, I cherished our working relationship, but most of all, our friendship. And you mentioned Macaulay Culkin's tribute. on his Instagram page. He shared photos of the two of them together when
Yes.
they were young.
When
and
he
then
was
when they were,
Kevin, and then when he got his star on the Hollywood Walk of
she
Fame,
came out
and she
to
was
support
there.
him. Yes. And he wrote, Mama, I thought we had time. I wanted more. I wanted to sit in a chair next to you. I heard you, but I had so much more to say. I love you. I'll see you later.
Oh, I saw, so that we don't both break down in tears, I saw a interview with her where she said she had not seen him in a long time. And we know that he struggled with some things in his personal life, and he was on the other side of it. And she saw him. She said it had been like a decade. I don't even remember. A long time. A long time. And she saw him, and he just like threw open his arms and said, Mama. And she just went, baby. And it was just like no time had passed.
I love that.
I know.
I love
Precious.
that. Well, as heartbreaking as all that is, I think this is even more so. After her death, a clip became viral. It showed Catherine O'Hara, America's mom, saying in an old interview that of all the roles she'd ever had, the one she'd most like to be remembered for was, quote, mother of my children.
Oh.
Isn't that sweet?
Armchair psychologist.
All of that brings us to the armchair, Ashley. And I'm just going to ask, we've just done this lovely tribute to this woman who was just a force of nature. What do you think set Catherine O'Hara apart from other comedians or actresses of her generation?
I have to go back to what we talked about in the beginning. What Seth pointed out is that she had a confidence in her own ability to know what she could do. She knew herself. She knew what she was capable of. And it sounded like she advocated for what she was capable of by saying, for your consideration, I'm going to rewrite the scene. And it was always better. It also sounds like she was kind of an unsung hero of writing because she wrote, improv is writing in your head in the moment and saying the words. She was a fantastic improver. Her ability to create character, write, distinguish herself, stay kind, and advocate for herself, and know her abilities, and gosh, she just seemed like such a sweet, caring, compassionate person overall.
And I would agree with everything you've said. I think that her identity as America's mom and as that funny but relatable but kind character was part of it, and being who she really was, that was incredibly important. But I think another thought that occurs to me is, I'm probably going to misquote this, but I think there's a famous quote that says something to the effect of genius is 99% perspiration and only 1% inspiration. And I'm impressed by the fact that this woman, through all of it, she had her highs, she had her lows, she kept working. She kept working. Now, she would choose, she prioritized her family to a certain point, and she probably did less, or she chose the projects that allowed her to have more time at home. But she continued to work, and she continued to work with people she loved, on work that she felt good about. And I think that it paid off for her.
Yeah. She was, that's a good point. She was selective, but she chose to work with people she loved and cared about. And that led to a happy career. She wasn't doing things she didn't want to do.
Right.
She was doing things she wanted to do with people that she loved.
Who could ask for more?
What could be better?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I think that brings us to the end. And of course, a huge cheers and a big we'll miss you to Catherine O'Hara.
Cheers, Catherine.
If you love what we do, please rate and review our show or become a supporter through Buy Me a Coffee or Patreon. Whether a single gift or recurring monthly donation, your support is what allows us to keep the tea brewing.
Subscribe on your favorite podcast app or the Scandal Water Podcast YouTube channel, and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Show notes are available at our website, scandalwaterpodcast.com, where you can also access the merch store and more.
This episode was executive produced by Candy Thomas, that's me, and Ashley Raymer Brown,
that's me.
It was researched and written by Candy Thomas and edited by Ashley Raymer Brown.
A special thank you to Josh Martin, who wrote, composed, and performed the Scandal Water theme and other music, Matt C. Adams, who created the artwork, and Joshua Reeve, who designed our website and provides ongoing technical support.
As a reminder, this podcast is purely for entertainment purposes. The thoughts and opinions of the host during each episode of Scandal Water are their own and do not reflect the opinions of any future guests, advertisers, or clearly professional psychologists. Thanks for listening.